So, welcome. We're doing first principles for women in STEM for personal and professional development. Today, we're going to look at unlocking your emotional freedom and understanding more about how your thoughts are key. So, the concept we're talking about today is that our thoughts create our feelings. And it seems so simple, yet so profound as well. So, for example, it's kind of there's different ways that this we might start to notice this in our lives. So, say for example, someone's walking past you, or you walk past someone that you know at work, and you wave to them, and they don't wave back. And then in your mind, you might be thinking they're ignoring me. Are they upset with me? But and that can make you feel sort of hurt or embarrassed. But if you think they probably didn't see me, you might feel neutral or fine. I actually had a friend that didn't wear her glasses and she would never see you. I didn't know that. And it was like so revealing, right? Um, or say you have a work email response, it really shows you that it's your thoughts, right? Your work email response. You send an email at work and you don't get a reply for hours, right? And you might be thinking, if you're anything like me, and how I used to think about these things, it would be like, oh, they didn't like that, or I must have, they don't like my idea. And that can make you feel anxious, right? But if you think, oh, I can figure out what to do in the meantime, let's just see when they come back to me, you might feel more patient and relaxed and capable. Or even if you're like stuck in traffic or on the subway, right? And you might be thinking something like, oh, like I'm I'm already so behind and now I'm late. And that would just make you feel like frustrated and even more stressed. But if you could find it in within yourself to think thoughts about what you can control, right? Like I can't control this, but I can control listening to one of my favorite podcasts or music in the meantime, right? And then you can feel more calm and enjoy the moment. And as we start to realize that our thoughts create our feelings, like in these different circumstances, you realize that it's not the person you walked by, it's not the lack of responses to your email, it's not the traffic jam. It's really your interpretation of those events. It's your thoughts about those situations that are creating your feelings. And this is great news, right? Like this means that we're way more in control of our emotions than we realize. And right now, it might feel like our thoughts are very automatic and that we don't have control over them. But what I want to offer you is that as we do this work, we have more and more. Um, and it's also important in two different ways. And I want to go into those two different ways today. One is both for ourselves and like our own emotions, but also like our interactions with other people. So I'm going to start with talking about how it is for ourselves. And knowing that your thoughts create your feelings, it's not the circumstances. And it's not what others say or do, or even your environment that creates your feelings. It's really how you're thinking about those events, about your environment, about what others are saying and doing. And it really makes a shift in perspective so that the power is with you. And it matters because we often give credit to others or circumstances for our own emotions. Like they made me feel small, or my job is what's stressing me out. But if you realize that it's your thoughts about what someone said or your interpretation of them or the environment, that shapes your emotional response and you regain control over your reactions. And, caveat, there are environments that you can choose not to be in. There are people that you can choose not to be around, no matter what your thoughts are. And that's always okay. But there are times when it's really valuable for us to be more empowered and really be able to make these choices for ourselves. So we're first going to look at how this works for ourselves. But if you're wondering how to change the thoughts, or how this is important for interactions with others, stay with us because we're going to talk about that too. Um, but first, I wanted to give you some more examples. So I've done this work both in my personal and professional life, um, to be able to not have to change others, but to be able to bring the power back within myself and for my clients too. And I want you to kind of think of it like an onion as you're doing the thought downloads. and understanding more about how your thoughts are creating your feelings. And it's just kind of like peeling away. So, the first example I wanted to share with you was with my husband. And the circumstance with this was when I really started doing this work in the very beginning. And I used to get triggered when I was cooking and my husband would come in and like check the pot and he would do all of the different things that he likes to do because and I love him so much, he's an optimizer. So he's um, constantly looking for ways to improve things. And this is a great match for my own growth. And my husband would say something like, "You need to cook the rice longer." And my thought would be, I should have known better. And then the feeling I would have was ashamed, right? And so we can see how we would feel this way if we're when we're thinking this thought. We can feel ashamed and not react in these moments. Like it gives us more choices when we understand what's going on. We can choose whether we want to keep thinking this thought, I should have known better, or even if it comes up, whether to believe it or not is also available to us. And we can also identify other intentional thoughts that might be more serving to us. And so this might be more of an intentional model that we could create. So my husband says, same circumstance. Okay. My husband says, you need to cook rice longer. And maybe I could think, maybe that's true. And when I think that thought, if I find the truth in whatever he is saying, I feel more open. And so we can start to find ways, and I'll talk about this more, but how we can find these intentional thoughts that are more serving to us. We know it's serving us because we believe it. If we don't believe it, it's not serving us. It can actually be detrimental. So that's one check. And there's others as well. So that's an example from my own personal life. And this still happens. This still happens. He is still giving me advice about my cooking. But I don't have to ask him not to, right? I don't have to ask him not to because now, whenever he does that, I'm like, I can take that. And that's one of my other favorite lines is I'll take that into consideration. That's in my A line from maybe that's true. So here's a professional example. Okay, so say you share an idea with your boss or board of directors or a colleague, and they say, "Don't worry about it. Just do your work." Right? And then your thought about that, their words that they say, is they never listen to me. And then you feel undervalued. Right? So we do our thought downloads and we start to kind of parse this out. Then we can start to question this thought. And the first question I always ask is it serving me? And however you're feeling is going to be your clue as to whether it's serving you or not. And in this case, I would say it's not serving me, right? They never listen to me. So then I would start to question the thought. And that's what I was saying earlier about how these thoughts, they may continue to come up, but then it's whether you choose to believe them or not. And when you start to question them, it makes them harder to believe. You can kind of start to pull apart the story that you're telling yourself. So one way is to flip it and then look for evidence on the other side. So you say, they never listen to me. You can flip it. They always listen to me, or even they listen to me. Has there ever been a time that they listen to you? Right? What does that even mean, listening to you? Are they listening to you but not agreeing with you? Are they listening to you but not acting the way that you want them to act in response to listening to you? Like, how can we break that down? My other favorite question is to ask, how can I see this differently? So this is what happens, they say, don't worry about it, just do your work. When I offer an idea, then how can I see this differently? Maybe, right? And here I have an intentional model. You could think something like, well, I did my part. Like I shared my idea. I made it visible to them in these three ways. They're not taking my recommendation. They're not listening to me in this particular instance. Maybe I love the listening because it's like they might actually be listening to you. They're not just not doing what you're saying they should do. Um, but you could think about it this, I did my part, and then that's really neutral, right? Like, okay, and then you move on, right? What happens in your A line is like then you get to work on other things. And then if you I can't quite see this one, but it says sort of a next level. Once you kind of practice the neutral one, then you can start to think, maybe it's available to you. I'll keep finding ways to share my ideas in different ways until one sparks, right? And then you feel motivated. It's like, oh, I'm just going to keep going. Like, okay, that one didn't fly. Like maybe this one will fly, or maybe I could say it in a different way. Um, so by opening it up with that question, how can I see this differently? You really start to see like what are some of the other options that are available to you. Okay, so this is important, right? Because it builds emotional resilience because you're understanding more about your unintentional thoughts and then deciding what you want to think on purpose. You can start to choose intentional thoughts that you believe that serve you. Um, and even for the unintentional thoughts that are coming up, you can look at different ways of thinking about them and also questioning them like are they true? Are they, do you want to believe them? Are they serving you? And I really want to make sure that it's clear that we're not talking fake it till you make it here. Like, I'm not saying think this thought if you don't believe that, because it really won't help you. It's like looking for things that you can believe right now that will help you step into how you want to feel in these kinds of situations. Um, okay, so the second piece is how our thoughts creating our feelings is true for others too. So, like in we have our models that are happening, and other people have their models that are happening. And what happens is that others people are also creating their feelings with their own thoughts. So this means that you can't control other people's feelings, right? And most of us were taught in school like not to hurt other people's feelings, like that we have some kind of control over other people's feelings, and we don't. This is one of those life lessons where I wish I could go into all the classrooms and teach this, um, because whatever's happening, right? And you can see how this is happening in your life. So I've got some examples to kind of see, so you can see um, how this is true, right? So like, have you ever had the experience where you buy someone a gift and like you feel amazing about the gift? You think it would be perfect for them, but then you can see when they open it, they're kind of disappointed. And so it's like your thoughts about it were that it was perfect for them, but their thoughts about it were something different. And no matter what you do, like even your intentions were really great, right? You can't control what their thoughts are going to be about it. Or you invite someone, actually I'm using this example. So um you offer someone help with a task, say, but for them they feel patronized by that, right? Even though you're sincerely offering to help them, but it's not recognized that way, right? It's not, they don't see it that way. They have different thoughts and feelings about it. Or this example is like you invite someone to an event and with five other people, and they your thought about it is like, this is great. I get to see all my friends and go to this concert. And you feel like really inviting and celebratory and excited about it. And then, but you have one friend, excuse me, where their thought about it is that she wishes, or like her thought about it is that she doesn't make time for me because it's not just the two of us, right? And then she feels hurt by that. But so you can have your thoughts about it, they're going to have their thoughts about it. You can't change their thoughts about it ever. Like you can influence other people's thoughts, but they're the ones, their thoughts create their feelings. And this is what happens with people pleasing, right? Is we're always trying to change the sea line. We're always trying to change what we're doing, saying, so that the other person doesn't feel a certain way or does feel a certain way, right? Um, so how they react, their feelings, thoughts, and behaviors, it's completely outside of your control. And this thought is like the most liberating thought, but can also be very kind of almost like a little bit shake you up a little bit, right? Because we've been taught this. But it's so crucial because it frees you from carrying the burden of other people's feelings and reactions. So many of us spend so much energy trying to control how others perceive us, and we're worrying about what the right thing is to say or feeling responsible when someone else reacts negatively, and it has nothing to do with us. So, it when you realize this, you can start to you realize that you can only control your actions and not their responses, and it lets you be more receptive and honest, right? It also prevents you from taking responsibility for other people's feelings, so that you can be more true with your intentions and act from your values without fear or guilt. And when you believe that your thoughts create your feelings, you'll be able to start to consider all of this in a very different way, right? Like, how would your life, confidence, and the ability to handle challenges change if you focus on managing your thoughts and interpretations rather than trying to control others or not be influenced by others' reactions, right? It will totally change your life. Totally change your life. So if you keep doing your thought downloads, picking out the thoughts and connecting them with your feelings, this is going to help you start to see how much control you actually have over your mental and emotional world. And that sort of that was like the 101 on this. The 201 on this subject is to ask yourself, right? After you've explored your thinking around your unintentional thoughts, like those ones that are coming up automatically that feel like they're not in our control, some questions like, how can I see this differently? And flipping it and seeing if you can find evidence for the other side, starting to question them, pick them apart a little bit, especially when they're not serving you. Okay. So that's what I've got for you today. I'm really looking forward to connecting with you again. And if you have any questions, leave those in the comments. I always read all the comments. So please do that. And looking forward to seeing you again soon.